Hi everybody, it's Glyn here, and I'm sitting out in our garden with Nicky. We were just talking about our life, and I said to Nicky, people have been asking lately, or are very surprised when they find out his background. And I thought it was time that we gave people a little insight as to who he actually is. So I would like to introduce you to Dr. Nicky Hamid, Professor of Psychology. He's quite special. Anyway, so Nicky, can we share a little bit about your earth journey so far in this lifetime, and a little bit about yourself?
Yes, have we got 3 weeks?
Let's start with, where were you born?
I was born in just outside London in Essex when the bombs were falling, and at the outset of World War II, and my first 4 to 5 years we lived with the presence of bombing. I was born to a family of 6 children, and my parents were working class, very well read, both of them, and I grew up in England for the first 9 years. We immigrated to New Zealand on my mother's initiative, and I then lived in New Zealand for the most part of my life. Spiritually, the first occasion I remember was when I was 5 years old, and I was walking past the church going to school, which wasn't too far away from our home. And I looked through the church gate, straight down in the front door, and you could see the stained glass window in the back of the church. And there was a figure appeared, a light figure, and it was Jesus. And Jesus became my friend, if you like, my guide and friend for most of my life up through teenager. He was the one I went to for guidance and for solace and for strength and direction. That was my first major experiment, but now, since I have woken more fully to my awareness, I realized that I was seeing things when I was only 2-3 years old, which I've written in my book about a little bit in my book, I think, in the Quantum Healing Moment.
Oh. Now, your father was of Indian descent, and your mother was,
my mother was
English Rose.
English and French mixture, yes.
Yes, and your mother was into Theosophy, wasn't she? She was very well read and knowledgeable in Theosophy, and that played a big part in your whole upbringing, didn't it?
Yes. Well, my mother was a Catholic, but she was a rebel, and she rejected the church, and she was a seeker, so she went into Theosophy. Now, the Theosophy looks at the comparative study of religion, philosophy and science, and she was very well read. And I had an inclination towards science and knowing who I was, and we had lots of books in our home. So Mum and I used to have long conversations right from a young age, and because of her knowledge and her memory, she was able to fill me in on so much. I used her to save me reading the books because I wasn't very good at reading. I was totally dyslexic, terrible reader and a terrible writer. In fact, even though later I became a scholar at university and so on, I have a report in somewhere in our drawers here at home, which says the teacher wrote on the report, "Nicholas is dumb." I'm rather proud of that.
And will never achieve, wasn't it?
Yes, I'm rather proud of that in a sense, because although the label was given, my parents never took any notice of it, and they allowed me to be who I wanted to be. So it was never, it never really felt like a baggage I was carrying, because I knew my parents believed in me.
And how old were you when you had the experience of sitting by the stream with that book?
Oh, well, that was a lot later. I frequently, throughout my life, I've had visions of what I now know is the future, but this was a vision of myself sitting by a stream, reading a book that was just pictures, and as I looked into the pictures, they took me on a journey, on awareness journey, and I went to all kinds of places using that book. But that book was actually very similar to the mandalas I now encourage people to do. And those mandalas appeared when I was very little, 2.5 years. They appeared right through my childhood, especially when I was going to sleep. And it was a means whereby I travelled into other dimensions. That's what I can say now, although I could not say it at the time. It was just part of my experience.
So, and through your younger days when you were growing up, you loved your sports, you were into rugby in a big way, and also at school you were always a protector of those being bullied, and you, even back then, you can see now you had this amazing ability of reading people, of knowing when they needed help and just reaching out and touching them, and always there for the underdog very much through school, weren't they?
Yes, I did. I was in the thick of it with all the boys and playing boys type things, but when somebody was being bullied or hurt, it was kind of like I saw red. And I would go in and take on people, you know, bigger than myself, and scare them off and push them off, because I did not like seeing anyone being teased or abused. But I was a very physical young man, and so sport was very, very important to me. I loved sport. At school, the three subjects that kept me going was science, mathematics, and art. And art and maths, as far as I'm concerned, went together. Though the teachers used to pull their hair out a bit with some of the things I painted because they weren't what normal children would paint.
So yes, so after school you did a few different jobs around, not really knowing what you wanted to do, and then you went into school teaching. And one of the things you've told me about in school teaching was how you brought a lot of unhappy, unruly children into a space of peace and contentment with the art you had them do, and you were very good at teaching the Gestalt art and helping people too.
Yes, art has played a bit throughout my life. You were saying earlier, I had this natural inclination to help people. When I was a teenager, I used to help. It was especially the girls who used to get into emotional turmoil, especially over their boyfriends and so on. And I used to like lots of friends. I didn't have too many girlfriends, but it seemed that I gravitated to those who were in emotional turmoil and was able to help them. I had a way of reading them. But I also had this interest in different ways of contacting feelings and awareness. And I mostly found that I could get much more from people, and especially the children, through art. I didn't know what I was going to do when I eventually started earning money, but I felt it had to be something to do with teaching. And although I still felt this wasn't the thing, I went into teachers training college to train to teach young children. And I did that for a couple of years. And then I went to teach at high school, and I did that. But it didn't really fulfill me. To cut a long story short, I moved into the university, or I was given an opportunity because I had done so well in my psychology courses, especially because I had a science twist, and the scientific approach in psychology was very central to the way psychology was going at that time.
And so that's when you went to university and studied psychology, and you exceeded there with honours.
Yes.
And then you went from Wellington University up to Hamilton,
Yes.
Waikato University, where...
Yes, I was at Victoria University in Wellington, and I got my master's in record time with a distinction, which was the first there in psychology, because I was doing research and I loved and I found that easy. It wasn't so demanding on my writing. I could do statistics and things like that. But that seemed to impress, and I was offered a job at Waikato University, in which I went and started teaching. And it was kind of very liberal because it was new there. And I did the standard type courses, taught the standard type courses, but also I was able to be innovative and teach the courses I liked. So gradually I gravitated towards teaching psychology, the psychology courses, self-awareness courses, human potential courses, and eventually a course which became my favourite, which was called Psychology East and West, in which I combined the teachings of psychology with the mystical schools of the East.
That was a very profound course, and of course your meditation, and you had a special room, a well room built, wasn't it, where
Yes.
you used to take all the students and meditation. And not only at university, you also had formed groups outside university.
Yes, I had meditation. I used to take meditation groups on a Sunday night for years. I did workshops and interpersonal workshops, marriage workshops, what they used to call encounter groups. I ran a clinical practice, as it were, with referrals from doctors, and I carried that through my entire university career. I wrote scientific papers, internationally refereed, many papers, and the university approved of that because it gave them kudos. And in exchange, I did the courses I liked, which were very non-conventional, and the students loved them and I loved them because they were focused on this self-awareness and what we might call religion, but spirituality in its broadest sense. And I used to teach meditation at university as well. I've always seemed to love doing many different things at the same time, and thus it's helped me to see that people, wherever they are so capable of all kinds of things. They just don't realise, and You give them space and place and a touch of love, and people just fly.
Then in 1990, you had a lot of leave owing you, so you decided to take 2 years sabbatical, and you offered a job in Hong Kong, and that was a pretty big sort of job. The British still
You've
were in
jumped a
charge.
long way ahead, haven't you?
Well,
yeah. We got to be
and
quick.
So we went to Hong Kong for 2 years, ended up 12 years.
Yes.
And what was it you went to do?
Well, first of all, I married this beautiful lady. She came into my life. I'd had a previous marriage, and she had moved off with somebody else she'd found, and we'd had children of that marriage, from that marriage. But I met Glenn, and there was nothing really to keep me, and I wanted to explore something else, and so we moved. I got offered this job in Hong Kong, and we moved to Hong Kong for me to set up a course. They wanted a course in psychology that was recognized internationally as a professional qualification. So that was my task. And we went there for 2 years because I had some leave owing to us. And we loved it so much we stayed for 12 years. And I taught in Hong Kong the whole time, and went also in China. We just had so many other different experiences. It was much more formal. I was made a professor there, and it was a lot more formal because at Waikato I had so much freedom that I hardly went to meetings, and I was able to do the things I like doing, and put aside all the administrative stuff. But Hong Kong was a totally different kettle of fish, much more administration, much more, many more meetings, and that was good for me because it meant that I had to do the things that I preferred not to do, but do it with a will instead of a maybe or I won't.
And we had a big meditation group meeting every month at our place.
With the Chinese friends.
Lots of lovely Chinese folk coming in that. And it was a wonderful experience in there.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. So your career has actually, there's no way you can pigeonhole you into one area of psychology. I remember in Hong Kong, the head of engineering came to you. They had a major engineering problem they couldn't figure out. So the head came and took Nicky to lunch and picked Nicky's brains, and Nicky solved their problem for them. So there you go. But it was wonderful. So we've only just scratched the surface here. But now you're retired, and we're living here in Waihi in New Zealand, and
Retired?
yes, from the outer world, we're now in the inner world very much, and you're doing all these writings. You've got, do you want to speak about your Facebook and writings and your books that you're writing now?
Yeah, well, Facebook, it's funny because Glenn said, I've got something I think you'll be interested in. That's a thing called Facebook, and I said, no, I'm not interested, because I was writing and sending emails to groups of people around the world of my writing, and I felt that was enough I had to do with my counselling and so on, because even, 35, 40 years ago, I was writing and putting it in a newsletter and putting the stamps on that newsletter myself, and posting it worldwide, a newsletter of writings. So it's not new, but Glenn says, Facebook, that would be great for you. And I said, no, I'm not interested. She said, I'm going to enroll you anyway. So she enrolled me in Facebook, and I took no notice. 6 months I kept getting these emails saying that they were they'd connected to be my friend, and I hadn't a clue what that meant because I'd never looked at Facebook. Well, one day, by mistake, I think I went on to one of these emails that I was discarding, and I found myself on Facebook. And I saw these people, and they were being very nice. They wanted to be my friend and so on. I said, well, I can't disappoint. I can't disappoint these people. They're nice people. A lot of them I know. So I started liking. And then one thing led to the other. I better put a posting up. So I started putting a posting up every so often. And within a short time it became weekly and then daily. And I got hooked. And it's just boomerang since then. It's just boomerang. I think that my first Facebook page was filled within 2 years with 5,000 friends, and now there's a second one just about full now. So, and lots of people are asking me to share my writings. They want the posting put together in some form, and they want more of what I write. And I say that I write now from the consciousness, the collective consciousness. But I know now in my voice as well as in my writing there is activation, because they're not just from me, they're from we. They're from a grand we. Because I know who I am. I know who I am. And this life that we've talked about, that was Nicky's, it was a dance, and I have danced. I have danced through life. I have had heaps of fun. I've tried things. I don't have a difficulty really trying things new. In fact, I love new. And I came in, let me just end it, I came in from a history, if you like, a past life history that I have seen, that for the 10 incarnations before I arrived in this one, I had died before I was 13 years old. And so coming in this time, I was going to squeeze the life out of life, if you know what I mean. And so that's what I'm here for. I'm here to tell you to live, because it's precious and it's an amazing life. And I'm having one. I'm having it. We are having it, aren't we, darling?
So you can see he's quite an amazing man. And we have people contacting from all over the world. He has at least 2 or 3 Skype calls a week, and there's every day there are calls for help, and then there's different ones who are passing through on holiday or that come in and see us, and it's really lovely, and our doors are open to all, and we don't turn anyone away. And he's really just got so much to give now.
We have.
So that's just scraping the surface. There's so many, as he said, it would take hours to go through all that he has done. But he certainly is very versatile, and he's also very scientific, quantum healing, he's way out there, way out, and very, very much so. So thank you all for listening, and I hope this is of interest to you folk out there. And if you want any more, just let us know. And so from Nicky,
have a brilliant day.
And from Glyn, sitting out here in our lovely green pastures, just have a wonderful day, and heart-healing hugs to you all.
Yes.